1300.
Good afternoon. I guess you could hear me better if I have my microphone on. I'd like to have staff to first call the roll.
Senator McDougal.
Here.
Senator Locke.
Here.
Senator Deeds.
Present.
Senator Lucas.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, I would like to ask staff to start with summarizing the identical bills.
Madam Chair, the first bill is House Bill 141. Delegate Reed. This relates to a Veterans Fellowship for State Government pilot. It establishes the pilot program administered by the Department of Veterans Services in collaboration with Virginia Commonwealth University. The House Bill 141 is identical to Senate Bill 113, Senator Reeves, which was continued by the committee. 10 yes, 5 no.
Yes. Delegate Reed, please.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, thanks for having me here today. This is the Virginia Fellowship Program that is being established with conjunction between VCU and Virginia Union University. It would create a pilot program of 5 individuals who would be graduate students and 5 individuals who would be graduate students. And this would be a process to be able to work them through and allow veterans to be able to go to school and be able to have internships and programs to better prepare them to be able to work in state government. And this has already passed the House, and of course it has been included in the House budget. It's about $1.3 million for the first 3 years of the pilot program.
You've heard from the patron. Any questions from members of the committee? Senator Deeds?
My mic's not coming on. I apologize.
Push that. Try that one. Okay.
Okay, it's on now. We carried over an identical bill, and I think it's not in the Senate budget; it's in the House budget. I appreciate that, but I think we have to handle this the same way we handled the Senate bill, and now I'll make a motion to carry over.
Second. There's a motion and a second that the bill be carried over. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
One no.
Okay, Madam Chair, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, the next bill is House Bill 1284, Delegate Askew, relating to firefighters and emergency medical services collective bargaining. It allows firefighters and emergency medical service providers employed by a political subdivision of the Commonwealth to engage in collective bargaining. Madam Chair, this is similar to your bill, Senate Bill 623, which was continued in the committee, and you directed the General Government Subcommittee of this committee to further evaluate during the interim.
You've heard the presentation. Any questions?
Madam Chair, I'm not sure if the patron's here.
I think I saw Delegate Askew, but I may have been mistaken. Senator Deeds?
Well, we supported this bill out of the Commerce Committee. We set it up here, and we didn't have the money for it this time around, or we were concerned about the fiscal. And what we did with your bill is we asked the General Government Subcommittee to study it in the interim, and I'd move to treat this bill the same way, to carry it over and ask the General Government Subcommittee to study it in the interim so we'll come back next year with a better bill.
Second. There's a motion and a second that the bill be carried over. All in favor, please say aye. No, same right. The bill is carried over.
Madam Chair, the next bill is House Bill 309, Delegate Hope, relating to forest land and urban tree canopy conservation plan. This requires the Department of Forestry, in coordination with the Technical Advisory Committee, to develop a plan. This bill is similar to Senate Bill 461, Senator Marsden. Senator Marsden's bill directed the Technical Advisory Committee to identify cost-effective means to perform a forest land and tree canopy assessment.
Madam Chair,
Senator Deeds.
I think the staff has some amendments that will bring this into conformity with Senate Bill 461, and I'd move those amendments.
Second. There's a motion and a second that the amendments we agreed to. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Noes have the same right.
And then the Senate Bill 461 is a bill that passed the Senate 40-0. I would move we recommend reporting that bill.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported as conformed. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Noes have the same right. Thank you. The bill is Report it.
Madam Chair, the next bill is House Bill 1403 relating to Dam Safety Flood Prevention and Protection Assistance Fund. It reduces the percentage match required of applicants to receive money from the fund. It's similar to Senate Bill 698, Senator French, which was continued in the committee. 12 yes, 3 no.
Madam Chair.
Senator Deeds.
And likewise, and this delegate is from my territory. I know her very well, and I know the issue well, and it's important to the people back in the district. But we, aren't going to. I don't think be in a position to treat this differently than we treated the Senate bill, and so I would move to carry it over.
Second. There's a motion and a second that the bill be carried over. All in favor, say aye. Aye. No, same right. 1 no. The bill is carried over.
Madam Chair, the next bill is House Bill 321 relating to the payment of benefits from the Line of Duty Act. This bill increases from $25,000 to $100,000 the death benefit payout under LODA for death caused by occupational cancer, respiratory disease, hypertension, or heart disease. This bill is similar to Senate Bill 649 Salim, which passed the Senate 40 yes, 0 no. However, Senate Bill 649 increases the benefit from $25,000 to $50,000, while the House bill before you increases the benefit to $100,000.
Delegate McQuinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. As he's read, that's the bill. My bill, the difference is that mine's from $25,000 to $100,000, and the other bill is from $25,000 to $50,000. However, it's in conferee Senate Bill 649.
649.
Yes.
That's correct. Any questions of the patron on the motion?
Madam Chair, I think we have amendments to conform this to 649. I'd move those amendments.
There's a motion and a second to conform the bill with Senate Bill 649. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye. And then move to report the bill.
There's a motion and a second that the bill be reported as conformed. All in favor of that, say aye. No, same right? Aye. Report it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next bill is House Bill 107 relating to the Electric Vehicle Rural Infrastructure Program and Fund. It establishes the program and fund to assist private developers with non-utility costs associated with the installation of public electric vehicle charging stations. This bill is similar to Senate Bill 457, Senator Marsden, which was continued by the committee. 12 yes, 0 no.
Madam Chair.
Senator Locke.
Madam Chair, I move that we carry over House Bill 107 in the same way that we carried over Senate Bill 457. Second.
There's a motion and a second that the bill be carried over, treating it identically to the way we had our bills over in the Senate. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. The bill carries over. Now we will go to the patron sign up, and I don't see this list over here. Thank you. Delegate Knight, you're first on the sign up sheet.
Madam Chairman, I have House Bill 1053. If you'll recall, last year in
Bring
the
your
budget.
attention to House Bill 1053.
Yes,
Delegate
ma'am.
Knight.
Yes, ma'am. If last year you'll recall, we put a budget amendment in for abandoned and derelict boats to try to get them out of the waters.
Yes.
And this is putting that same thing in the Code of Virginia and also streamlining some of the criteria to make where we can take these boats out a little faster.
Delegate Knight, you fish a lot, so I'm sure you see a lot of those boats.
Yes, ma'am, I do. And I
Any
see them from
questions?
overhead, too.
I see, you a lot of people back there nodding their heads when I said that. Any questions of the patron?
That he fishes a lot or that he sees a lot of boats?
He fishes a lot. There's a motion and a second that the bill be reported. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Bill is reported.
Thank you, Madam
Thank you.
Chairman.
Delegate Garrett.
Looks like we have Delegate Garrett next, and that's House Bill 489.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the committee.
Good afternoon.
So a little bit of history. This bill is 172-0 right now on yes votes in front of 4 committees and 2 subcommittees in the House and a committee and a subcommittee in the Senate. So I hope that we can keep the momentum up, Madam Chair. So what 489 does is it actually expands the latitude that localities have for how they would use the ATL, aid to locality monies, that they get for their fire department. This comes as a recommendation of the Fire Safety Program Study Program 2175 of last year. There are no entities opposed, and the firefighters are here to support. What it would do is allow the localities to use ATL money, not just for procurement, because right now a fire truck costs about $1 million, and Cumberland County, for example, gets about $41,500 a year, right? So it would take a long time, but also for recruiting, retention, facilities maintenance, and mental health for firefighters who commit suicide at a rate far greater than that of the population at large. So it only expands what the localities can use the monies that they're already getting to do. And again, there's a lot of support, no opposition, no fiscal impact, and I hope it will be the pleasure of the committee to advance the bill. Thank you.
Any questions of the patron? Senator Locke?
Delegate, are funds from this fund normally used for operating expenses?
So what this bill does is expands what the localities are allowed to use the funds for ATL to do. And the expansion would include recruiting and retention, because after COVID, we saw a great decrease in the number of people who went to become volunteer fire and rescue. Also for mental health, because we see a real delta between the fire and rescue community and the population at large. And for facilities maintenance, because historically we used ATL monies to do things like procure tanker trucks. But again, one of my counties gets $41,500 a year. A tanker truck now is about $1 million. That'd be a 27-year wait. So my localities are very grateful for the ATL monies. But again, in a study with probably 15 entities across the state in the fire and rescue community, this was one of their recommendations, which is why we carried the bill to be able to better access the money they're already getting. They asked that facilities maintenance be included on that list.
Madam Chair, let me ask it
Senator
another
Locke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me ask it another way. Does this include the fund being used for operational expenses?
No, ma'am. With the expansion of the ATL latitude to localities would include recruiting, retention, mental health, and facilities maintenance. I suppose one could argue the facilities maintenance would be an operational expense, but as the bill stands before you, that's not there. There are, again, any number of entities here who might be able to speak with more specificity to what we're doing from the fire community specifically.
I think we may need some clarification from staff attorney.
Madam Chair, the bill does provide the use of funds for hiring additional fire personnel and funding recruitment and retention programs. And then it does say, except as provided in this section, no such funds shall be used for purposes of investment in operating expenses. So to the extent hiring additional fire personnel and funding recruitment and retention programs will be considered operating expenses, it does include those, but no others.
Senator Locke, does that answer your question? Partially. Any other questions from the patron? Comments? Motions? Well, this is the first one for this committee, but it sounds like your bill is gone for a lack of a motion. Are you gonna make a motion? There's a motion?
I want to substitute motion because I like a lot of what this bill does, but I'm worried about moving into operating expenses for the first time. I'm going to make a motion to carry.
Substitute motion is that the bill be carried over. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. And one no.
Thank you, Madam Chair. God bless. Have a great day.
You're welcome. The next on the sign-up sheet is Delegate Taylor. You have House Bill 700?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and
Yes, go
members of
right
the
ahead.
committee. So HB 700 adds room and board to foster kids attending a 4-year college and university, and tuition and fees are already covered. This bill changes the waiver requirement from may to shall, so it can ensure that foster kids who decide to go to a 4-year university can do so. It already is shall for 2-year institutions. And there was no fiscal impact on this bill because it requires the institutions to establish a waiver.
I understand, and I think we have a committee substitute, if I might turn to staff attorney.
Madam Chair, the committee substitute would remove the mandatory grants for the room and board And it would also provide, the current bill says grants for the payment of tuition and fees. This would say tuition and mandatory education and general fees. The remainder of the bill is left intact.
Yes. There's a motion and a second that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Do I have a motion on the bill with the substitute? It's been moved and second that the bill with the substitute be reported. All in favor, say aye. No, same right. Bill is reported.
Thank you.
With the substitute.
With the substitute.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
You're welcome. Next on the sign-up sheet is Delegate Simon.
Which one?
Simons.
One with the S.
Oh.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon.
I have HB 139, which simply applies the Virginia Prevailing Wage Act to contracts for underground infrastructure works performed by private contractors doing work on government-funded or regulated work. Other states have also provided prevailing wage coverage for underground utilities, including neighboring Maryland, New Jersey, and New York. So passing this in Virginia will help us stay competitive in terms of attracting and retaining the best workforce.
Thank you. Any questions of the patron? Comments?
Madam Chairman,
Senator McDougal?
was this the bill we heard in Commerce and Labor? And this was, I asked the question there, and I don't know if it was really clear, but when I was looking at the language, had some concern that each individual employee's earnings would be specifically listed out individually. Were we able to get some clarity on whether that is in fact how to be done? I don't think Dolly was quite clear with their answer.
Yeah, I went back and viewed the tape of that. They said that each classification of worker would have to be recorded. They didn't say anything about each individual worker, like their name or their personal information, but I think it was each class of worker.
Any further questions of the patron? Like to have a motion, please? There's a motion? That's on House Bill 139.
Page 8.
There's a motion and a second that the bill be reported. Oh, no, the one, Senator Dees, I want you to go on with your explanation, please. Okay. There's a motion and a second that the bill be reported. So all in favor say aye. Aye. No, same right.
One no.
One no. Bill reports. Thank you. Delegate Hodges, you're next on the sign-up sheet.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You have before you House Bill 1433
Yes, we do.
that provides that for purposes of continued health insurance pursuant to the Line of Duty Act, an eligible dependent includes a child that was born or adopted prior to the employee's claim approval date. Under current law, an eligible dependent includes a child born or adopted prior to the time of the employee's death or disability. And to put it in perspective, Madam Chair, we had someone that was injured in the line of duty, and in November of 2016, they returned to work in January of 2017, and over the course of the next 4 years, they were in and out of work due to the injury. And in 2019, they were looking at trying to grow their family, and were unsuccessful until they were blessed with his wife becoming pregnant in October of 2020. The last day that this person worked in their loaded cover position was June 15, 2020. They worked over the next few years to get the loaded benefits, and finally were approved in the spring of 2023. But when they contacted DHRM, they were informed that the daughter would not be covered because they missed it by a date of 3 months. So basically, we're just trying to give the opportunity to these folks to be able to continue to grow their family without the stress of being able to provide insurance for them. As far as fiscal impact, it's really unknown because we don't know how many of these folks actually it may happen, and, it's kind of a pay-as-you-go, and it would affect premiums in the long run if people come under the family program, so
Delegate
that's all it
Hodges,
does.
we talked about this late into the evening. It was night, nothing about evening. And I'm still unclear about some part of it. Is VRS representative in the audience? I'd like to ask somebody to speak to the, thank you. I'm still confused about the number of kids afterwards. Oh, the length of time,
Yeah,
yes.
Madam Chair, Trish Bishop with the Virginia Retirement System. Right now, we wouldn't know how many children would be eligible under this. It would depend upon the circumstances if they had, if someone who was disabled in the line of duty had a child after their disability, but before their claim was approved. So right now, there are some folks who fall into this sort of gap between that. So we don't, I'm not sure how many could, it's indeterminate about how many could be.
We were asking ourselves that question late into the evening. Senator Deeds?
Madam Chair, I just wonder if somebody, for example, had been involved in in vitro fertilization and had some embryos or something stored, they were born, would it apply to them too if those children were born at some point?
Yes, they would likely be eligible because they would fall under that, it was before the claim was approved, so they would be covered later if that were the case.
So, Madam Chair, do you have any way to cost that out? Do you know what kind of impact that would have on the fiscal side?
I'm not 100% sure. Janet with DHRM is here for who runs the health insurance side, because it's really, they'll be added to the health insurance program that DHRM administers, and so I'm not 100% sure how that would impact exactly on the health insurance side. However, when you do add additional eligible dependents, it does generally increase your risk pool.
Madam Chairman,
Senator McDougal?
this is a constituent that Delegate Hodges and I shared. I do think that what Delegate Hodges is trying to do is to impact a very small group of people, not a large group of people. Would it be acceptable for maybe us to carry it by, see if we could resolve some of these issues? And if we can't resolve it, we certainly understand where that will mean. But I get the sense that the committee would like them to be resolved before it moves forward.
Without opposition, we'll let it go by for a day?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, you're welcome.
Bye for the day.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
At the request of Senator McDougal, yes. Next on the sign-up sheet is Delegate Overall?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Good evening, Madam Chairman.
Good afternoon, sir.
Madam Chairman, members of the subcommittee, House Bill 1312. And Madam Chairman, members of the subcommittee, it's very straightforward. This is a JLOC recommendation. It would add to the Valors program our state park law enforcement section. I would emphasize the effective date is 2025 and only for service accruing after July 1 of 2025. It's very straightforward, Madam Chairman. That's measured. It is in the House budget.
Any questions of the Patriot? Comments? Motions? Anything?
What's the bill number, 1312?
Yes, it's 1312 on page 7.
Isn't this the same thing that I carried for years?
Yes. It is.
Had JLOC recommended it then? I'm just
JLR recommended it years ago.
Oh, did they? All right. But it is in the House budget this year.
You had a similar bill. Right.
It was Senator Stewart's bill.
Senator Stewart's bill.
So he had the same bill?
Oh, last year, sorry.
This is another one that we discussed at length, so we finally need to make a disposition on it. We're still at the same spot we were in last night.
If we could just pass it by for the day.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the subcommittee.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next on the sign-up sheet is Delegate Simon without the DS this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the committee, I think this is House Bill 315. And,
Call your attention to House Bill 315.
okay, and this bill requires the Department of Medical Assistance Services provide lien payoffs for liens against personal injury settlements within 30 days of a request from the injured party. There's an amendment over in the House that says they can't submit their request and start that 30-day clock until all the healthcare expenses that have been paid for by the program have been supplied. If they don't respond in a timely fashion, the attorneys for the injured person can prepare that payoff themselves, submit it to DMAS for approval, and if they don't disapprove it, that'll be the amount that is owed to DMAS on the lien. I think there was a revised fiscal impact statement that says that thanks to some new program improvements going on at DMAS, they think that they can probably manage this timeline with an uncertain fiscal impact.
Thank you. Any questions of the patron, Senator Locke?
Madam Chair, I believe there's a committee substitute.
Yes, there is a committee substitute. I'd like to have a motion on the committee substitute.
Move the substitute.
There's a motion? And a second to agree with the committee substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Can we hear it?
Senator Locke is asking for staff attorney to enlighten us.
Madam Chair, the committee substitute would extend the time period from 30 days to 60 days. It also adds an enactment clause asking the DMAS to report on a quarterly basis for those offers of the payment for some certain and satisfaction of the liens to which it does not respond pursuant to the bill, and report on that on a quarterly basis to the Senate Committee on Finance and Appropriations and House Appropriations Committee.
Madam Chairman.
Senator McDougal.
I think we've already approved that amendment. I think this is actually going to add some money to our budget and resolve cases quicker. Right now, some of these are languishing for not just months, but years, and this is money the Commonwealth would be able to get back faster. So I'd move to report as amended.
There's a motion and a second that the bill be reported as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Sounds like 4 ayes to me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you,
You're very
members of the
welcome.
committee.
Bill is reported. Next sign up is Senator Rasul. This is the second time I've done that. Delegate Rasul.
I appreciate the upgrade, Madam Chair. Members of the subcommittee, I have before you House Bill 1098, bereavement leave. I believe that there's a substitute.
Yes, there is.
We have two. There's a patron and a committee.
Yeah, we have two substitute, a patron and a committee sub. Do you have yours?
We're going to go with the committee substitute.
We'll go with the committee substitute.
Committee substitute is the best thing to go with.
We know that one. Staff attorney, please.
Madam Chair, the committee substitute would create a Section 1 study for DOLE and DHRM to convene a work group to study employer-provided unpaid family bereavement leave. And in the study, they consider many of the things that are outlined in the bill as it comes before us.
There's a motion and a second that the substitute be agreed to. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Move to report the bill with the substitute.
There's a motion and a second that the bill be reported with the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. You're good.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Bill is reported with the substitute.
Thank you so much.
Delegate Russell. Delegate King, Mundan King.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon to you.
And members of the committee. I have House Bill 814.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead. Call your attention to House Bill 814.
Thank you. So House Bill 814 is a bill that will require Virginia Tourism Authority to work with the Library of Virginia and the Virginia African American Advisory Board to create standards for how we talk about plantations and slaveholding properties on our state websites. Right now, if you go to Virginia's for Lovers, you'll read these glowing descriptions of beautiful grounds and nothing about the people, generations of people who worked to build these facilities and some of the atrocities that were committed there. And so this bill will actually help us increase our historical tourism and follow the lead of places like Monticello and other larger historical sites who are already doing the work to bring historically accurate storytelling to their facilities.
You've heard the presentation. Any questions of the patron? There's a motion and a second that the bill be reported. All in favor say aye. Aye. Bill is reported.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Next on the sign-up sheet is Delegate Clark.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good
members of
afternoon,
the
Delegate
committee.
Clark. You have House Bill 1401.
Yes, ma'am. Today, I'm introducing HB 1401, which will add full-time firefighters employed by the Department of Military Affairs to the Virginia Law Officers Retirement System for services earned on or after July 1st, 2025. This bill does have a delayed effective date of July 1st, 2025. We see fire and rescue staff are at a high risk from responding to fire-related incidents and experiencing other work-related demands, such as being exposed to harmful chemicals and working on hazardous terrain. Fire and rescue staff are also responsible for conducting controlled burns in and around the base to reduce the risk of wildfires. This bill does not have a fiscal implication for it. I may need to phone a friend that can explain it a little bit better than me, but I know.
Yes, yes, please.
Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, so Delegate Clark, what this bill does is it provides the hazardous duty supplement under VRS to the firefighters at Fort Barfoot. They are the only state firefighters in the entire Commonwealth. There's about 20 of them. The rest are all local government firefighters who all receive this benefit currently. So through the cooperative agreement with the federal government and at Fort Barfoot, the federal government pays for the salaries and expenses of these firefighters that are there. So that's why there is no fiscal impact on the state. Essentially, maybe the state pays up front, however, all the expenses are reimbursed by the federal government through the cooperative agreement.
Any questions of the speaker? Sir?
There is instances where there are other firefighters that are in the Valor's program.
So, yes.
Is VRS here? They
Local,
might be able to
yeah,
respond.
VRS might be able to help with this, Patricia. But local government firefighters are under the Valor's program, yes.
Is that so?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. No, there are no other firefighters currently. My name's Dave Cobb, I'm sorry, with VRS. There are no other firefighters in Valor's, but there are no real other state firefighters. Local firefighters are eligible if the locality elects for hazardous duty benefits under that local election. So there are numerous local firefighters who are receiving hazardous duty benefits, but none of them would be in Valor's.
Madam Chair.
Senator Deeds?
Mr. Cotter, these firefighters are, the pay comes from, I guess, federal reimbursement. Is there any federal hazardous pay that would be applicable to them?
For the
firefighters.
For the DMA firefighters?
The ones that are paid by federal dollars.
There is a fiscal impact of $108,000 from the general fund that's on the impact statement for the bill. I do not know if they would be getting reimbursed from federal dollars on that or not, but there is that outlay up front to increase the benefits that go along with Valor's for these 20 individuals who are the firefighters at Fort Barfoot now.
I think we may need to take a deeper look at this, so if we don't have any objection, I'd like to pass it by for today, because I think we may have a different outcome.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And did I have another bill?
That's the only one that we have in this, on this agenda.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you. Delegate Boulevard, you're next on the sign-up sheet.
Marvelous. Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon.
All right, first bill that I have up today is House Bill 316. And what this bill would do is establish the Virginia Recycling Development Center along with an associated fund and an advisory committee. So I think, as you all know, recycling is important for a couple different reasons. You know, one is to reduce the burden on our landfills, but also can be a very important part of our sustainable economy. And unfortunately, we do continue to struggle with recycling rates in Virginia. I think a poster child for that is glass recycling, which is kind of at an abysmal 10% rate. here in Virginia. So that means there's about 300,000 tons of glass that goes to our landfills each year. And it's actually a double shame because we got two glass container manufacturing facilities in the Commonwealth. There's a couple of different reasons for that. Oftentimes it's insufficient local recycling infrastructure and equipment. Sometimes it's a transportation challenge. That's particularly the case for very heavy materials like glass, and sometimes it's a lack of well-developed markets. But what the development center would do would be to dive into those issues, forge those relationships, particularly with VEDP and Department of General Services, in order to be able to boost up Virginia's recycling infrastructure. And Madam Chair, we do have a budget in the House for this, something that is supported by conservation communities such as the Virginia Conservation Network, as long as a number of our manufacturing sectors.
Madam Chair.
Senator Dees.
Delegate Bulva, the House, you've got money in the budget, we don't. Your bill that doesn't identify a funding source for the fund. So we've got a committee substitute that creates the fund. And I guess we can just work out, if that's agreeable with you, maybe we can work it out in conference.
Okay. Madam Chair, so exactly what is the substitute?
I'll move the substitute creates the fund.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move the substitute.
There's a motion and a second that the fund be created. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye.
And I'll move to report the bill.
It's been moved and properly second that the bill be reported. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Marvelous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I also have House Bill 420.
Yes, you do.
All right. So, Madam Chair, House Bill 420, that would allow the governor to have the authority to enter an agreement with the Federal Department of Interior to keep our national parks open in the case of another federal shutdown, which seems to be a perpetual issue these days. But the impetus for the bill actually was last October when the shutdown was about to coincide with peak leaf season in the Shenandoah Valley, which is the time when most of the entities out there reap the benefits of the National Park Service. And so while it didn't ultimately shut down, it really did highlight just how critical those National Park Service sites are to Virginia's economy. And just in terms of 2022 alone, National Park Service estimated there are 22.5 million visitors to National Park Service sites just in Virginia. They spent over $1.2 billion, directly supported 17,662 jobs with a cumulative economic benefit of $1.8 billion. While that kind of shock can be absorbed in some parts of Virginia, it's a death blow for other parts of Virginia. And so this is the kind of stuff that's going to really just be awful for hotels, B&Bs, gas stations, convenience stores, outfitters, as well as the concessionaires and their families that rely on these jobs. And so what I will say is I hate having to clean up after federal messes, but when their mess becomes our mess, having the ability to be able to react and respond in that way, I think is prudent. So it doesn't require the governor to do this. It just creates a framework for the governor to negotiate with the Department of Interior so that if the administration feels that they can come up with something that's mutually beneficial, that they have the authority to do that. It's something that was actually already done in Arizona and Utah to success. They were able to keep open their national park sites the last time there was a federal shutdown, and just hoping to add Virginia to that list.
I have one concern. I think it's the same one I had last night. And you were feeding me with a garden hose, so I probably was an overload. But I'm still concerned about it in the event that the governor calls our troops in the case of a federal situation. Who pays for it? Okay.
Here's, Madam Chair.
Senator Deeds.
My concern is this, our staff tells us it would cost about $6.4 million to cover the 21 days. And I'm not sure where that money's going to come from. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a good idea. I just worry about the fund, all these great ideas, but you got to pay for them somehow.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, what I would say is, that number one, I believe that Arizona and Utah have theirs structured in a way so that there is a reimbursement mechanism so that the state is not left holding the bag. And I guess in this case, the governor would have to do the calculus, the mathematics to say, hey, for up to 21 days of being able to run those Park Service sites, what is the equivalent hit to the economy and being able to make those decisions. But I do know those other two agreements are predicated on the idea that they would eventually get that money back.
Senator Locke?
Delegate, Madam Chair, Delegate Bolivar, does that include covering the cost of the employees?
Madam Chair, it could. Again, this is meant to be flexible, so it's not that you have to keep open all parks. You could do a subset of parks, but again, it allows the governor to develop a framework with the Department of Interior that would be most advantageous and beneficial to the Commonwealth.
Any further questions of the Patriot?
Madam Chair, this is a good idea. I think we don't have enough details right now, and I'm going to move to carry the bill over.
There's a motion and a second that the bill be carried over. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye. Madam Chair, there were two bills we voted on earlier when the patrons weren't here.
Yes.
And I've committed to both of them that haven't voted on the prevailing side, whereby we, I'm sorry.
We're good? All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Whereby we carried over House Bill 1403 from Delegate Loffer and Delegate 107 from Delegate Sullivan.
So you have a
We
motion to
reconsider the votes.
There's a motion to reconsider. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the bill is being reconsidered. Delegate Lawfer?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you. HB 1403 amends requirements in the Dam Safety, Flood Prevention, and Protection Assistance Fund in order to provide more funding support for owners of regulated dams. HB 1403 will lower the matching funds from the individual or locality that is seeking to utilize the fund for mitigation, study, or repair from 50% to 30%.
What we really, Madam Chair,
Senator Dean.
what we really need to know is how is this different from the Senate bill, which we carried over?
So
Did this.
the matching fund on this one is different. It's actually, and I do have a couple of folks in the room that can help me with this, but from 50 to 30%, so that we would maintain more money in the fund. And then each year, only 50% of the money from the fund could be distributed. And currently, it's underutilized, and we do have a number of dams that need help. And I'm hoping either Matt Wells or Daryl Glover might be. Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, Daryl Glover, DCR Deputy Director for Dam Safety, Floodplain Management, and Stormwater Conservation. The main change in this bill versus the Senate version is that 50% of the fund's reserve would remain in the fund until the following year. But in a given year, the other 50%, we would reduce the match that a property owner would have to pay in order to get their dam repaired or rehabilitated. And this fund is severely underutilized, and we feel that this will encourage many more dam owners to get on the path of getting their dams into full compliance with the law.
Thank you for that Thank you for that presentation. Any questions of the patron or the speaker? Senator Locke, you have a motion?
I think that's the same as before, but is still similar to Senate Bill 698, which we carried over to continue to 2025, and I move that we carry over HB 1403.
There's a motion.
I'll second it. I'll second it for the sake of.
Okay, there's a motion and a second that the bill be carried over. And the reason we're carrying it over is because it's identical to a bill that we had in the, similar, not identical, but similar to a bill that we had in the Senate. And we're trying to treat all the bills the same. So we're trying to give the same treatment to House bills that we've given to our own bills in the Senate.
I think the difference was that it was 50% before, that the owners would have to come up with 50% of the, but yeah. And the reserve, so what we did is say only 30%. And we also kept the reserve to stay at 50% per year. so that we wouldn't take too much of the fund down. Because we heard that there was a concern that there would be not enough funds.
That's correct. The funding is a problem. No, we had a motion, we've already moved on it. Yeah, we moved to carry it over. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Senator Deeds, you had another,
The same motion was for Delegate Simon's bill.
yes. Sullivan, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the committee's indulgence, and I apologize, I was stuck in transportation.
We do understand.
So my understanding is that there was a concern about my bill and Senator Marsden's bill. There are a couple of very important differences. Senator Marsden presented a bill that was, this has to do with EV infrastructure in Virginia. And Senator Marsden presented a bill that was very broad in its scope. 107 is very specific and different because it applies only to the rural parts of Virginia. Second difference is that there is money in the House budget for HB 107. So at least I hope it can remain part of the conversation. There is going to be, over the next couple of years, a lot of new EV infrastructure in Virginia. But the problem, Madam Chair, is that all of those chargers are going to go in urban corridors and along the highways, the interstate highways in Virginia. So it's 95, 64, 66, 81. I don't need to tell this committee, Virginia is a very big state. And there are a lot of people, a lot of businesses that are located very far from those interstates. So what HB 107 is meant to do is fill that gap, specifically limited to rural parts of Virginia, so that all Virginians and all Virginia businesses have access to EV infrastructure. Not only is it important that Virginians have that access, but I was struck by Delegate Bulova's presentation earlier about the importance of our national parks. We want to make sure that other people traveling to Virginia or who want to travel to Virginia, who drive EVs, will not feel deterred by the fact that there isn't charging infrastructure where they want to go, like to Shenandoah National Park or the New River Valley Park. Millions of people come to visit these parks from Tennessee, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and if they're not convinced that they can drive their EVs there, they won't come. So this is all about building out just our rural infrastructure. There's an enactment clause that makes clear that if, for some reason, federal money starts to go into rural parts of Virginia, then we no longer need this program. But this is meant to be an accelerator to bring private businesses. This is not just Virginia building infrastructure. This is to give grants to private businesses who will then feel emboldened to come in and develop where they otherwise would not develop by installing infrastructure. So it's good for our economy, it creates jobs, and treats all Virginians the same so that we don't have this disparity of where electric vehicle infrastructure is placed in Virginia. So I appreciate the committee hearing me out and hope that you'll reconsider your earlier vote. And I do think I have some people here to testify. I hope I do. If you're willing.
Madam Chair,
Senator Deeds?
I'm very sensitive and cognitive of the fact that we carried over Senator Marsden's bill, which did almost the same thing. Your bill has an enactment clause, is a little bit different.
And it has money.
It has money in your budget.
I understand that.
Not our budget.
I understand.
And we can continue, even if we carry this bill over, we could continue that conversation in budget negotiations. If we put a reenactment clause on this bill, we could keep it alive and keep it in discussion while we go forth with budget discussions. And so I'd move a reenactment clause for this bill as well.
There's a motion on the reenactment clause?
So I'm still mad at the House for not letting us speak, but I'll second it.
We got a reluctant
We're better
second.
than they are. We're just, you
Hey.
We got a reluctant second down here. So all in favor of reenactment clause, please say aye. Aye. Now motion on it?
I'll move the report.
There's a motion and a second that the bill will be reported with the reenactment clause.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate
Thank
it
you.
very much.
I don't see any other names, and so if there's no further business, this committee shall rise.
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.